Everyone, and welcome to our special council meeting for February 15th, 2024 at 4:34 p.m. May I please have a mover and a seconder to call to order? Moved by Councillor Cressman, seconded by Councillor Martin. All in favor? That carries unanimously. We're going to jump into a closed session as we have one additional item add to the closed session meeting, and that is labor relations or employee negotiations matter in accordance with section 239(2)D of the Municipal Act. In order to consider the item, I would require council to consider waiving notice. For that, I would need a mover and a seconder. Moved by Councillor Dunstall, seconded by Councillor Cressman. All those in favor? That carries unanimously. So now, the recommendation as amended is that a closed meeting of council be held on February 15th, 2024 at the Wilmot Rec Complex in accordance with section 239(2)B and D of the Municipal Act to consider the following. 1, fire department compensation, which is section 239(2)B, personal matters as an identifiable individual, including municipal or local board employees, and section 239(2)D, labor relations or employee negotiations. And then item number 2 is community services department, section 239(2)C, labor relations or employee negotiations. May I please have a mover for this? Moved by Councillor Martin, seconded by Councillor Dunstall. All those in favor? That carries unanimously. And we will reconvene in open session once this is done. Alrighty, we are going to jump right into reconvening into open session starting at 5:37 p.m. May I please have a mover? Moved by Councillor Dunstall, seconded by Councillor Cressman. All those in favor? That carries unanimously. For our territorial land acknowledgement, we have gathered in Wilmot Township on the traditional territory of the Neutral, Anishinaabe, Haudenosaunee, and Mississauga peoples. We also want to acknowledge the importance of the Dish with One Spoon Covenant, a peace agreement made between Indigenous nations before the Europeans arrived. It characterizes our collective responsibility to each other and Mother Earth. We should take only what we need, leave enough for others, and keep the dish clean. By acknowledging this covenant and the First Nation, Métis, and Inuit peoples, we are reminded of our important connection to this land where we live, learn, and work together as a community. There are no additions to the special council agenda, so the recommendation is that the agenda as presented for February 15th be adopted. May I have a mover? Moved by Councillor Martin, seconded by Councillor Sadhu. All those in favor? That carries unanimously. Are there any disclosures of pecuniary interest? Seeing none, we do not have any delegations or correspondence. We do have report number 10.1, which is Township of Wilmot Corporate Strategic Plan Options. The recommendation, to get it on the floor, the recommendation is that the council receives report CAO 2024-02 regarding the request for proposals for a strategic plan for information purposes, and further, that staff be directed to negotiate with the successful bidder to identify components of the strategic plan that could be completed with internal resources. To get this on the floor, may I have a mover? Moved by Councillor Dunstall, seconded by Councillor Wilkinson. And I will now call on our CAO, Ms. Chambers, to introduce the report.
Thank you, and through you, Mayor. On January 25th, the Finance and Budget Committee approved a motion instructing staff to bring back a report with options, including how to bring the strategic plan in-house to reduce costs and the possibility of deferring the strategic plan to the 2025 budget. This report presents 4 options for Council's consideration. Option number 1 is to award the RFP as submitted by the successful bidder. So I would be authorized right now to award this bid. The strategic plan and outsourcing that was approved actually through the 2023 budget, and this is a carryover project. And that essentially gives me the authority to issue the RFP and as staff award it because it falls within the certain threshold in the purchasing and procurement bylaw. In order to reverse that decision, that would be considered a reconsideration by council, and so it would require a 2/3 vote of council to change direction and bring their strategic plan in-house. One of the disadvantages of this, and I did express concern at the time, is that with the extensive work plan that the Office of the CAO has on our plates for the coming year, I'm concerned that we don't have sufficient resources to do all of the work in-house. And so we did consider an option number 2, which was to award the RFP to the successful bidder and discuss an amended scope following the award. So if we are to award the RFP, we can go back after awarding it to the successful bidder, or even have a discussion prior to ensure that they are agreeable to amending the scope. Some of what I had heard from council when we initially discussed this on January 25th is that by completing the strategic plan completely with the external resources, that it can tend to be very cookie cutter, and that we don't want a strategic plan that is going to sit on the shelf. We want to ensure that it's customized and very usable for Wilmot. So if we were to amend the scope, one of the things that I would suggest is that we could ask the consultant to lead things like the engagement. We can enhance the engagement if council chooses to provide additional opportunities, new ideas for engagement if there are expanded scope of engagement that you'd like to do with the community. And as an example, I know the mayor had indicated she wanted to see more engagement with the local schools. So that's something that we could work with the consultant to come up with an engagement plan that would be more to council's satisfaction. In addition to that, we could also look at having them do the data collection and analysis that would inform the plan. One of the elements that we could take in-house is actually writing the plan ourselves and writing the action plan to ensure that it was very much aligned with what council's vision is. And I would also say that, you know, one of the advantages of using an external party for the engagement is that it is a neutral third party. So it will be not only the public that's being engaged, but it will also be council and also staff, so that, you know, when we come up with the results of that engagement, there isn't the appearance of it being, you know, skewed by, say, you know, staff's desire, or, you know, that it really is a neutral third party reflection of the engagement that we had heard. Again, if this is the option that is chosen, I wouldn't really require any direction from council in terms of awarding the plan, because I still have the authority to do that, but I could engage with council to ensure that your thoughts are reflected in those negotiations if you chose that option. The third option is to reject all bids and defer the strategic plan to 2025. I'm not recommending that because I think that is really too late in the term. By the time we finish our strat planning process, and we're looking at sort of a condensed process here, it would take approximately 6 months, then you're too late in the term really to achieve many of your goals. And I also think with the extensive work plan that we have, it really would be beneficial to have that prioritization occur with council, so that we can really hone in on what are your top priorities and then focus staff on that for the rest of the term. And so that's not my recommendation to defer. I think it's best that we proceed. And then option 4 is to reject all bids and complete the strategic plan with internal resources. And, you know, I did speak to some other municipalities who have done that. Depending on the type of strat planning process that you want to engage in, you know, the cities obviously have larger teams that are dedicated towards strategic planning, and they have cross-functional teams within the organization that deliver the strategic plan. The smaller municipalities that I spoke to are really, if they do it in-house, they're really doing a refresh of their existing plan. And in this case, I think because the strat plan was developed with an entirely different administration and an entirely different council, it's probably best to start fresh and ensure that we have a vision that's a new direction for the township. And I would have concerns about our ability to do that completely in-house with the existing staff complement that we have. So based on that analysis, I am recommending that we do award, but that we work with the consultant and work with council to ensure that we're getting what you want, and that we would take components of the strategic planning process in-house, including writing the plan to ensure that it reflects your vision for the township for the remainder of the term. And with that, I'm happy to answer questions.
Thank you. Councillor Cressman.
Yes, I think you did a good job of laying out the options. I see option 2 as being the compromise position. I think as well the importance of getting this moving as quickly as possible, and then the work plan developed out of the strat plan. And if delaying it would present challenges. So I don't know if I'm prepared to move a motion that option, we direct the CAO to follow option 2 as outlined. And I think that gives the results that we're looking for.
Okay, so that's moved by Councillor Cressman. Councillor Martin, are you seconding that? Okay, are there other comments or questions on option 2? I do just have some comments. I understand the third party unbiased neutral comment. Part of why I had said I wanted to see this done internally is an opportunity. Certainly when I was campaigning, it's been made clear that there's a lot of breakdowns between trust in communication, I would say, with the municipality and the wider, broader public. I see this as an opportunity for staff, especially because we have new staff in those roles, for staff to be a part of the engagement. I don't know if that's something, and I'm not saying staff do it alone, but I would rather see some staff engagement in the engagement component, because I think it is an opportunity for us to utilize and build relationships with new people in those roles. You can speak.
Yes, I do fully agree with you on that, Mayor. And, having been involved in strategic plans in the past where they've been led by a third party, the CAO, Ms. Kell, would also be very involved and the senior leadership team would also be very involved in those engagements out with the community, listening, presenting information as well. And I would see it as being done in combination with the consultant who's leading it, but having us very involved in the process as well.
Okay. Any other questions? Councillor Wilkinson.
Thank you. Through the chair, to CAO Chambers, is there any concern potentially that by awarding the RFP ahead of time, we may not see a revised scope of work even if we ask for it?
Through you, Mayor, are you requesting that council see the revised scope of work prior to finalizing the agreement with the consultant? Is that what you're requesting?
Through the chair, not exactly, but I would be curious if that's an option. I guess my question is more so if we were to approve option 2 and we go back to the successful bidder, if there's an unwillingness on their part to potentially amend the scope, do we run that risk?
Yeah, I think we would have to engage the successful bidder prior to award to see if they were willing to amend the scope of work. And if not, then we would, have to consider options after that. My guess would be they would be amenable to that. I've seen that happen quite frequently where they are amenable to change processes. So I don't anticipate an issue with that. But we would have to ask the successful proponent first if they were willing to do so. But, to what I thought you were asking initially, I do think it's a good opportunity for me to engage council, and I'd like to maybe have a conversation with each of you prior to negotiating that to ensure that the process that we're developing is going to meet your needs. And so I think I'll be reaching, if you're amenable to that, I'd reach out to each of you to have a discussion and before speaking to the consultant.
Councillor Wilkinson.
Through the chair to the clerk, does that need to be given as direction, or could that be added as a friendly amendment? That direction be given that the CAO reach out prior to engaging with the RFP bidders?
Through the mayor, we can add that as a friendly amendment if the movers are amenable to it. I would just point out that the motion, if it's okay with you, Mayor, the motion that Councillor Cressman had raised is essentially the same motion that's already on the floor that Council put forward through Councillor Dunstall and Councillor Wilkinson moved and seconded. So we don't have to have the motion, Councillor, that you've moved forward. I think the first is already achieving that. So if it's okay with Councillor Dunstall and yourself, then we could do that as a friendly amendment, yes.
Through the chair, it's agreed.
Any other questions or comments then on the amended motion? Okay, seeing none, all those in favor, and that passes unanimously. We have no announcements for this meeting. We do have business arising from close. And it's just one motion that council approve the proposed 2024 fire department compensation structure as recommended in report FS 2024-01, including removal of the work party rate and adjusted rank-based firefighter rates effective January 1st, 2024, and further, that council approves a 3.1% cost of living adjustment be applied to the 2023 training day rate effective January 1st, 2024. I'm just wondering, is that a typo and it should be 2024 training day rate? No? Okay, all right, perfect. And then there is part 2 to this, which is that the staff proceed as directed with respect to a labor relations matter. May I please have a mover for this? Moved by Councillor Dunstall, seconded by Councillor Cressman. Any comments or questions? All in favor? That carries unanimously. So for the special council meeting, just in case you're following along, we are going to close out this meeting and then go into Finance and Budget Committee. So we have our confirmatory bylaw attached to this agenda, be ready first, second, and third time, and finally pass an open council. May I have a mover for that? Moved by Councillor Martin, seconded by Councillor Cressman. All in favor? That carries unanimously. And adjournment for the special council meeting, moved by Councillor Cressman, seconded by Councillor Martin. All in favor? That carries unanimously. Now don't go anywhere.